Hey guys, welcome back to the What About AI podcast. I'm Sean Boyce,
I'm James Perkins.
and the topic for today is all about how AI is changing the hiring process and what you could do to maximize your chances of getting hired in 2026. So, what we want to start with describing for you is how McKinsey is kind of changing their hiring process. So, they have an AI tool, which is called Lilli. They use it in the final round of their interview process today, but they are not looking to evaluate candidates from the perspective of leveraging AI, just as they refer to it, an answer engine. They want you to be able to manage context and judgment, push back perhaps, and work with the AI to kind of figure out and do problem solving. So they'll provide a scenario, they'll give you a problem to solve, they'll give you the tool to use as part of that process, but they want to see how you interact with it to kind of make progress step by step along the way so that they have something like that to evaluate. So, having said that, I think we're likely to see probably more of this, which means that the old interview process is probably long gone. Now we need to start preparing for how this is changing and evolving so that we can position you as the best candidate that produces the results to give you the highest probability chance of securing those jobs. So I don't know. What do you think? Is this likely to kind of continue from here? Or like, how do you think that experience will continue to change?
It's really, I think there's two divergent paths. One is companies and individuals fall back on how it's always been. Like if you know someone you've encountered before that you think is a great fit for the role, you might prompt them to interview for it. Um, Folks in the company that have kind of worked their way up or done well, you might prompt them to apply for it. That's how it's been done and kind of how it is today. And there's a lot of problems with that system. Don't get me wrong. The alternate path is people get hired based on merit. So if you really want to get closer to some level of objectivity and you want to see more and more of these tests where either AI is involved in performing the test or the test is just based on your raw intellect and knowledge, um, I could see that happening. That does take a lot of the decision work out from the hiring manager. It's like you'd have to define, just so you define a good prompt for AI today, you have to define a good prompt for your role. But I could see that happening. Yeah.
For sure. And I think we're seeing changes on both sides of the equation here as well too. So not just leveraging AI technology from the company's perspective, but the candidates are as well. I know we've recorded a couple of episodes about that in terms of how candidates are using it to produce customized resumes, apply for jobs even, and then companies are using it on the screening side as well also. So seeing a lot of change for this process at the moment. One interesting tidbit in terms of some of the client work that we've done, one of our clients is a recruiting company, and the work that we did for them was try to help them figure out and evaluate basically what the candidate's perspective would be on if the companies were to leverage AI technology more significantly throughout the process, up to and including essentially replacing you talking to a human, and instead you talk to the AI for at least one of the steps in the process of your interview. And surprisingly, at least this was surprising to me, that the results were such that they got largely favorable feedback about the individual applicants interacting with AI over and above interacting with a human, which is kind of reversed from what I think it would have been. So anyway, I'm curious to hear what your take is on that, and if you think we'll see more of that stuff
I
too.
think we'll see more of that.
Yeah,
I mean, AI may not actually have emotions, but it certainly demonstrates empathy better than many people can.
I think that's fair.
I mean, if you want to spend time talking about your bunions, AI will talk to you all night. But will
And
your
it'll
partner
make
do
a
that?
pleasant conversation. Yeah.
So I can see more of that. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. So, what does that mean then for our applicants that are out there in the workforce now, and what to expect in terms of like when it's time for them to look for a new job, or for any of the folks that we've worked with, some of our clients that are unfortunately unemployed due to layoff or some type of reduction in force? Like, what does this mean for how should they be thinking about what these changes mean to them, and then how to maximize their chances if they're going to be going through some of these new processes to actually secure that job offer?
Yeah, I think, well, one thing is the folks we've been working with so far, there are far fewer jobs than there are people looking right now. Even like the recruiters we worked with and some of the agents we've worked with, I mean, they're saying they're not seeing nearly a quarter of the jobs they would have expected to have seen, whereas they're like tripling up or quadrupling the number of people they have looking for work with them. So if you're looking, we feel for you. We know how bad it is out there. Tons of free resources on the website. Go check it out. It's whataboutai.com. We have guides to help you get hired. We have guides on how to learn AI. Tons of free resources for like state and medical help if you need it. So check that out. But if you're looking and you're currently employed, that's a much better position to be in, obviously. I would say take the time now, like don't wait, start now, learning how to use the existing tools because all of that will be hyper relevant in whatever interview you're going after. And a lot of folks now in the interview process are asking questions about AI, but they don't understand it themselves. So if you can actually teach the person interviewing you something
Mhm.
during the interview process, your chances of getting hired go up significantly.
I love that
And,
tip. That's
and we've
awesome.
well, we've had several candidates get hired that way.
Yeah, it's really
So
cool. Yeah, it's a really neat hack. And the stuff's changing so fast. There's so many new things coming out all the time that if you stay current even on some of them, you're probably going to have something relevant to share with someone who's going to find that interesting.
big time.
Let's talk about the resume because previously, as part of the hiring process, obviously it's a critical staple. It's one that's kind of always been there and been obviously very important. The way I've always kind of thought about it is like the resume is to get you the interviews to get you the job. But I think we're seeing that change now as well. Also, basically what we're seeing in the data is with companies like upwards of 80+% for some of the research that we've done are leveraging AI in the hiring process. A lot of the resumes are not playing as big of a role in the process as they have been previously to kind of secure you those interviews and or get that job. But what Gartner, for example, is predicting is that or greater than 50% of organizations in the short term are expected to kind of be issuing and leading with more skills assessments and even those that don't have you interacting with AI to complete those assessments. So basically, like AI free skills assessment to evaluate how effective maybe your problem solving skills are or how critically you can think about doing these things. And what I'm wondering, and this is part of my question, but I'm just curious to get your general reaction is could we see a future where basically the resume isn't part of the first step any longer? Basically, instead of that, it's more of a some type of skills assessment. So you start with the assessment, and then if you pass the assessment, then you're moving forward on to the next step of the process as opposed to leading with the resume.
Yes, I 100% could see that happening. I think there's a movie about that partially. It's genetics plus skills, but it's Gattaca. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
Classic, yeah,
Total
good one.
sci-fi, awesome movie
Love
from
it.
probably the 90s. But I think, yes, the number of candidates for jobs that are applying is going to increase dramatically. Like starting last year and running all the way indefinitely into the future, there are going to be more and more people looking for work. So they have to filter that population somehow. Resumes aren't going to cut it. And I think they're going to have to introduce more of the testing the assessments you're talking about. Where they do it in the process, I don't know. Is it part of the job application? Probably. But we've had some questions about that. We've been working with some HR professionals and some folks in the recruiting business, and they're asking how can we filter through this candidate population to figure out what individuals' real skills are.
Hmm.
And it's going to get wild. Again, if you don't know AI, you should be learning about AI right now.
Definitely. Yeah, well said. I want to talk for our listener as well, also, as we're obviously trying to help them in this episode increase their chances of pulling those job offers and being so-called AI ready for any of the job hiring or application process, but essentially what that means, right? And I think a key part of it is obviously knowing the technology, being able to work around that, but also being able to articulate and explain your thought process and demonstrate your problem-solving skills in the process as well, too.
Mhm.
So one of our clients in particular that I'm thinking of that we had helped, who was within the interview process recently, had been asked by the prospective employer to kind of do certain problem solving, but a bit in kind of an old school way. So
Oh,
like,
that was weird. But go ahead.
yes, but I think the way that they navigated it based on the advice we gave was brilliant, as in they did both. So their process, the company that was looking to hire them, gave basically like a spreadsheet, and that data needed to get imported into a system.
That was
But
like do the work before you do the content.
yeah, which is I think we're going to see more of that related to this. So I think that's coming. But in as part of that process, the 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 directive wasn't to necessarily use AI or not, but our client had proposed that as an idea as part of this process because just felt that it could solve that like so much faster if I leverage AI, to which they didn't oppose. So it kind of that was the first thing is just like, can we just you guys okay if I just leverage AI to solve this problem? Because I think it's going to do it faster and better. And they were okay with that, but it almost seemed like an apprehensive type of interaction, which was really interesting. And long story short, it did solve that problem, which was faster and more effective than it seemed like any of the other candidates in the process thus far, because the other ones that they had, at least for that job in particular, had not decided to try to leverage AI in that way. But another key point that our client did as part of the process, and this is what we drove home for him, is make sure you do this too. Like, you're demonstrating your proficiency with leveraging the technology, but also walk them through how you would have tried to solve that problem without it. And that was really where I think he was able to connect best with the prospective employer by demonstrating for them, I know how I would do this even if I didn't have access to the technology, which I think demonstrates a much more comprehensive understanding of that problem solving ability. And I think that was standing out for the right reason for a couple of different ways, which is
Yeah,
great.
it's I know how to do it. I have the experience and the skills, but I can do it 10 times faster. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, 100%. And so that is kind of how I think of being AI ready and hiring, going through a hiring process in 2026 for how this is changing already and how much more it's expected to change. Any other advice you want to share for folks along that line?
I think that's the best. So I mean, this is pretty good. If you still have questions, reach out to us. We're very responsive, and good luck out there. I know it's hard.
Indeed. Well said. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate it.
Thanks all.